Okay, so married couple have to share a car. They're both used to having their own car, and they're having fights about it. So, what was your idea of collaborative solution to that?
The wife is going to get the car because if the wife is happy, the husband is happy too. It's a win-win situation.
You know what? That's actually good because I can't really say I can't argue against that. Some people believe that. Okay, what was your competing or compromise solution?
Well, they can take turn driving the car on certain days, and when they need to go to work or so, just carpool.
See, that's good. That's definitely a compromise solution because they're each having to give up a little bit on driving the car. Actually, I really like your collaborative solution because I couldn't come up with a collaborative solution for this one. The textbook said something like going to events together. So but obviously if you work separate jobs and that's not always going to work. So I didn't really come up with one. So that's actually really good. I like that. The problem would be convincing the husband of that theory, though, that's actually a win-win. Okay, Stephen, if you want to do, maybe Stephanie can hold it or Sean. Do you want to read yours? That was supposed to be my one that nobody could come up with an answer for.
Collaborative solution, saying two parties involved in the conflict situations both mutually agree that there's a conflict, then they both come out with a better solution to solve the issue, whatever the conflict is, so that there's both sides have win-win and they both become happy, and it kind of enhances their relationship, current relationship and future relationship.
And then for the compromise?
Yeah, compromise, that's when one party, definitely conflict is among two or more people, right? So when one party decides to take it upon himself or herself to resolve the issue, right, without the other party kind of contributing to it, because maybe that party doesn't want the issue to escalate to something else that might ruin their future relationship. So he or she just, okay, let it go. And
sometimes giving it.
Just giving, yeah.
What was the conflict solution, your example on there? The type, the black type. Can you just read that whole paragraph?
I didn't give solution for that.
Oh, that's okay. We'll just talk about the conflict solution because you gave a perfect description. But just this part here, if you could just read this part to us, and then we'll talk about
one of the two roommates felt that she is doing all of the housekeeping and chores. She is bothered by her roommate's tendency not to leave dishes in the sink, laundry, or on the floor, and her refusal to take out garbage.
Okay, this is an easy one, so we'll just talk about it. So obviously a compromise solution here would be maybe the roommate who's bothered by the housekeeping saying something like, well, obviously it bothers me more when the house is a mess. I'll do more of the housekeeping. Can you just make sure you don't leave dishes in the sink? Or can you just do this? And they come to some kind of an arrangement. Or maybe they make a chore list and so cleans this week and the other person cleans the next week. Can anybody think of a more collaborative solution where both parties win? Meaning the person who doesn't like to clean still doesn't really have to clean, and the person who wants the house clean still has a clean house.
Well, I think the person that's not doing the dishes could do more of something else. Like say they cleaned, Monday and Wednesday they cleaned the living room, or they took out the trash as well. Like do a little bit more, so the person that's upset about the dishes is just like, I'll just take care of the dishes if you just focus on those other chores.
Okay, or maybe even like gardening or something that the other person doesn't like.
Exactly.
Another good one is hiring a housekeeper to do all the cleaning and splitting the cost 50-50 of the cost of that.
Exactly.
So go ahead, Steve.
What about if they can't afford the costs? So I think if they make a list of whatever the conflict is about, then they both come together and kind of what can you do, right, to keep the house clean, and another person also decide on what he or she can do to keep the house clean, so that they
it makes it even, makes it fair.
Make it even.
Yeah, there you go. So a little bit better than just taking turns, but actually saying, well, what are you comfortable? What are you happy to clean? What are you good at cleaning? And then agreeing on that kind of a system. Okay, Sean, did you want to read?
Oh, sure, yeah. So my conflict situation was a newly married couple each wants to spend Christmas with their own family, but they don't want to spend the holiday apart. The families are on opposite sides of the country. So I wrote the collaborative solution was, I said this would entail both of them to visit each family as a married couple, not separately with each family, meaning they would just do like one would do Christmas and then the other one would do, you know, right after Christmas or, you know, New Year's or something. I said they would need to come to an agreement on which family to visit for the actual Christmas holiday, which would be difficult, but if their love is strong, usually one person will give in to the other just to make it easier. So it's kind of, I feel like that could also be kind of a compromise solution. So that's kind of where my gray area was, because, you know, the compromise solution would be like, you know, when both or one partner wants to allow the holiday to be celebrated with the other family. Say the wife really loves spending Christmas holiday, the husband's like, okay, well, if it's more important to you, then let's just celebrate with your family, you know, and not celebrate with mine, or, you know.
So that's like a true compromise.
Right.
Another compromise would be alternating years or alternating holidays.
There you go.
I like your collaborative
Thanksgiving.
solution. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Another, I think the textbook gives an example of inviting both families to come to their home
Oh, I like
for
that.
Christmas, so that
Yeah.
everyone is together all at once. So bringing both
Okay.
families together, so that they
Okay.
both get to spend the entire holiday with their family and with their spouse.
That makes sense.
So that's like a
That
true
makes sense.
collaboration. But I like the whole point of this exercise is to show kind of like the gray areas and the bleeding over, and that okay,
Right.
sometimes collaboration might not be possible. Like you can't
Right.
hire a handyman or somebody
Right.
to clean; it's too expensive.
Or
So
they're
you
coming
have
from
to come-
different parts of the country.
Right, and
so-
and maybe the families can't afford, and so
Yeah.
then compromise would be the next best thing. So
Right.
the whole idea behind the class is to focus on trying to collaborate, and but be flexible and be willing to
There should be room for.
yeah. But so that attitude of we're really trying to have what's best for both of us is like a really productive way to look at it.
Or maybe, even in that situation, I think both can agree. If this year they celebrate Christmas with maybe the wife family, then the next Christmas they go to the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that's pretty common. Yeah,
is
and
pretty
that's a
common.
compromise solution that's not a bad solution.
Yeah.
So this is the idea of that both collaboration and compromise are good. They're better. They're definitely better than passive aggressive. Like, oh yeah, we'll go to your families for Christmas, but I'm gonna burn down the Christmas tree because I'm angry that we're not we're not at my family, right? Okay, so we'll go. I'm talking too much, but we'll do the next one. So that ends like conflict cycle, destructive versus productive conflict, and the different options. And now we're gonna get into like the nitty gritty practical stuff. So these are just general rules for when you do have to engage in a conflict. So you've already decided that there's a conflict and you're ready to deal with it and you're ready to be productive and not destructive. So these are ways to help do that. And the first rule is so simple but so important, and that is be civil. So it shouldn't, I know you guys all probably know what civility means. It shouldn't need that much explanation, but what we should mention is that this is hard. This is really hard. If you're upset about something, it is really hard to not use curse words and be angry and kind of let that part of you do the talking. So just try to be mindful of that. And important thing to remember is that if you're having a conflict with someone, it's usually because they're important to you. You don't tend to have conflict, or people don't have conflict with you unless they need that relationship and they're interdependent. You guys are interdependent. So remembering that might help you to not say something that you'll regret later. So these are communication rights, and this is important to know your own rights, to know when someone is infringing on your own communication rights, but also to know when you might be infringing on someone else's rights. So you have the right as a communicator to be listened to and taken seriously, to say no, refuse requests, and turn down invitations without feeling guilty or being accused of selfishness, to be treated as an adult with respect and consideration. You can expect that others are not going to talk to you in a condescending way or treat you like a child. You have the right to not feel what other people want you to feel, not see the world as they would have you perceive it, and not adopt their own values as your own. So no one can say to you, you can't be angry about this. Nobody has the right to tell you that. You have the right to your own feelings and opinions as long as you express them in a way that doesn't violate the rights of others. So while you have the right to feel angry, you don't necessarily have the right to punch people in the face. So we're making a distinction there between those two things. You have the right to have and express interests, needs, and concerns as long as you do it responsibly. You have the right to change your mind, change your opinions or feelings, change your needs and your behaviors. You have the right to meet other people and talk to them, which go on, we're on the next one. You have the right to privacy, to keep confidential or personal matters to yourself. No one can say to you, you have to tell me how you feel, you have to tell me what you did, you have a right to not share. You have a right to have others leave you alone if you ask them. You have a right to have other people listen to your ideas. You have a right to ask for help or advice. This is funny, especially from experts, especially when you're paying for it. So this makes me think of a doctor's office. You should never feel guilty about asking your doctor what something means. They can never, I know doctors tend to make you feel like they don't have time for you. They're infringing on your communication rights. You have a right to ask them questions. So you have the right to not assert yourself, confront someone, or resolve a conflict. So no one can force you into a conflict. No one can say, we're going to deal with this right now. You don't have to do that. And you have the right to ask others to change their behavior when it continues to violate your rights. So this is important. You have the right to ask others. So I have the right to say, please don't do this. I don't have the right to tell someone that they can't do it. Let's go on to this. So this is the third rule. Stop, think, listen, communicate. This one is my favorite because it's like really just self-explanatory. The first step is the hardest step, especially for me, because I have a temper sometimes. So stopping is just taking a time out. And I wrote some things that the textbook says to do if you have a hard time with this, because my first instinct when I'm angry is to, we're going to deal with this conflict right now because I said we're going to deal with it. So the first one is exit temporarily to calm yourself, but make sure that you tell the other person that you're going to be back to resolve the issue. So give me a couple minutes, I'm going to go get a drink of water. Go cool down for a minute, drink water, take sips. Alternatively, like if you're in the car and you can't do that, you can try counting backwards from 100 in your head. Or you can try just changing the subject for a little while so you can cool off. Change to something positive, make a joke, and just come back to it later. Just push pause on it. The next one is thinking. This means thinking about the cause of the conflict, your possible solutions for it, and your goals. So if you get to this one and you're trying to think what you're going to accomplish by engaging in a conflict, and all you can think is, I want to get revenge, I want this person to know how upset I am, maybe go back to the first one and start over because you're not ready to actually be productive. Definitely don't move on to the next step if your first thought is, I want to hurt this person. Then you definitely need to go back to stop. So listening, also really hard for a lot of people. This is focusing, you're not just focusing on the other person, but also holding judgment until they're done explaining themselves. So if you've already decided that no matter what they say, you don't forgive them, or you're not going to be okay with their behavior, then you're not really being productive. Finally, after this, all of that, you're ready to communicate, but you have to keep in mind the first two rules. So when you do start to communicate, being civil and following communication rights. And so we're going to go into one more practical guideline to doing this, which I mentioned earlier today. I was talking about it at lunchtime. I-statements. So I-statements are really, really good for avoiding defensiveness in the other person. It's a way to personalize conflict by owning up to your feelings and taking responsibility for them instead of just blaming the other person for them. I-statements are really, really useful because they call attention to your own rights as a communicator, but also your responsibilities. And they have 4 components. The first is a statement of your feelings, so you're explaining how you feel. The next is the problem behavior, so what caused you to feel that way. Consequence is what that makes you think or what that makes you feel. I'll give you an example right now. Goal is what you want to be changed as a result of the conflict. So I feel annoyed when I have to put gas in my car after you use it because I end up having to take extra time to get gas and it puts me behind schedule. I would like you to get gas after you use my car. So I've acknowledged that it's not his fault that I feel annoyed. That's my own feeling and I take responsibility for that. But that there is a behavior that he could change which would help me not feel that way. So it's taking responsibility but also calling him out on the behavior that needs a change. So I really like this one because I've used this at home the last couple weeks and it's made conflicts resolved much more quickly without as many shouting matches. So I wanted us to just practice this. The sheet that's yellow in your folder has another example of a conflict situation. to read through, and then just come up with your own I statement. And you guys can be creative. You don't have to be, if you want to say I feel sad, or, you know, come up with anything, whatever feeling. If you think that somebody using your car makes you feel happy, go ahead and write that down. But as long as it follows these rules. So go ahead and pause it, Steph, while we work on those. And we'll do 5 minutes.